The Palace of Speed. Early on in this race.
The Spec-5 World Tour rolls on to Phillip Island. Thanks for joining us. We've got live coverage here on HJBC of Spec-5 World Tour, the MX5 Racing iRacing League, always so competitive. Now in our second season of covering them. They're now in their 14th season of racing. And it's round 10, as I said, from Phillip Island. Looking at that weather there, relatively cool, relatively windy. That's a typical day on the island with those southerly breezes coming from towards Antarctica, and that's how the Penguins like it. 4.4 kilometers, 12 corners, some of them super challenging, a really high speed run out of the final corner, down the long front straight, and the sweeping turn one here. And as is typical for the Spec-5 World Tour, a 45-minute race with a compulsory pit stop coming up. David Haynes here with Alex Albert and Michael Derby. We're just about to get into qualifying. Alex, your overriding feeling about Phillip Island?
I think it's a great circuit. I love the flow of it and the smooth high speed corners, and I think it's a great course, mate.
Yeah, fantastic. You'll fit in right well. It's qualifying right now. 15 minutes of qualifying. Drivers are on their outlap, and then they'll start their 4 flying laps. We're looking at Ronnie Coates. He's always been one of the drivers to watch up and near the front, and involved in basically a photo finish at Road America a week ago against Camden Hibbert, who just came away with the win. But they're two of the drivers who'll no doubt be challenging for the championship in not too many rounds' time, and are always challenging for poles and race wins. And if you want race wins, poles are the best place to start from. So qualifying is where all of that happens. And we're seeing exactly the kind of tyre preparation that Ronnie Coates feels is necessary for this circuit in these conditions, which is about 80% speed on this prep lap, now getting towards full throttle as he'll think about trying to carry as much speed as possible through the final corner and into the first of 4 flying laps. It's Joshua Soto navigating his way through recently renamed Miller Corner. A lot of things around here named after motorcyclists, not car racers, but that's just part of the heritage and charm of Phillip Island racing circuit. Also out there, the other Coates, Michael Coates, and I think Andy Kosick and a few others are just starting their first flying laps of qualifying here as well. Ronnie Coates and Rui Coimbra, in fact, a little further around on the lap. Brett Marshall on a lap 2 as well. Here's Ronnie Coates. Through that aforementioned hairpin, you've got the very flowing turn 1, then into the southern loop hairpin is already then come around through Miller hairpin, through the corner here known as Siberia, and then for a race car, it's flat out through this little sweeping section. The motorbikes have got to sort of flip-flop, lean from one side to the other. Alex, can you tell I watched MotoGP here last weekend?
Yes, I can. And then as you go to the uphill here, this is, I find, to be one of the most challenging sections, this turn right at the bottom of the downhill. It's, it can be very tight. It's one that I personally struggle with, getting a good line, swinging out wide, which looks like Ronnie did a very good job there to bring it out back to the right, swinging out wide for the left-hander here.
So we're about to see the first of the lap times from this qualifying. If you want to keep across some of the live timing, hjbc.live is our live timing link, and it'll have not only the qualifying order, qualifying times, but also pit stop times when we get into that in the race. Ronnie Coates goes to the top ahead of Rui Coimbra and Brett Marshall, only a couple of times at the moment, of course. Brian Jabelski goes to 4th. Now down to 6th. There's a lot more times start to come in. Ronnie Coates still up top with more of these times coming in. We've seen 2 open class drivers, Joel Singleton, one of them sitting 4th outright still in the moment. Camden Hibbett, last week's winner, across the line, goes to 3rd, but in the first of 4 qualifying laps that are going to count, typically still seeing the pole get set either on lap 3 or 4 of these runs. And it is a cold and overcast track and a shorter lap than Road America as well. So your tyres probably hang in there for that 3rd or 4th lap to be the best.
Yeah, it looks like great conditions, David, like you mentioned. And yeah, Ronnie, as he's sending it down here to the hairpin, hard on the brakes.
Great view out across that ocean from this angle, and the car did squirm a little bit as he went to turn in. Characteristic of the car this season does seem to be a little oversteery, and that's what the drivers are managing, is trying to minimize the slip, minimize the scrub, and so just maximize the traction off some of the slow corners. And this track's sort of like that. It's fast, you flow through a couple of corners, then you've got to get a big stop for a hairpin and then get the traction out of that slow hairpin through the next fast and sweeping section. You come over the hill here, and this is the second big hairpin, big stop downhill at MG. Hook a little bit of the camber for Odyssey Adams, and then in some cars, you're flat out full throttle from here all the way around to the timing line, about halfway down the pit straight. So Odyssey Adams is 4th at the moment. It looks like it gets out a little wide in the final corner. Not perfect for finishing this lap, and maybe not perfect for immediately going into setting up the next one either. puts him up to third for the moment. Ronnie Coates still up top. Brian Sabelski's gone up to second. Now Joshua Soto goes to the top, and that's a 146.3, and he was purple in the final sector there as well, so finding a lot of time late on in the lap as Timon Bramley now goes to the top. Personal bests all round, but no purple sector, so a very even lap. No particular corners that he's blowing everyone else out of the water, but just stringing the 3 sectors together on his second flying lap.
Yeah, Bramley was very quick in the last race that I commentated as well. So I expect we'll see him at the front again this week.
Now he's purple through that first sector, which the track map tells you consists of pretty much just turn 1 and Southern Loop. Brett Marshall has gone to the top, but it looks like he's done with qualifying after his third flying lap. And Ronnie Coates starting the 4th lap, I think, here. So his last attempt at trying to improve in qualifying with a couple of drivers to beat, like Brett Marshall, like Timon Bramley. Joel Singleton still best open class driver at the moment, 4th outright. And he starts his final flying lap. His key contenders for open class pole position look to be Ian Giebler and Lee Martin. They all fought each other for open class honours last round as well. Mitchell Peak with a time already, but last of the drivers on track at the moment. Looks like he started his qualifying runs a little bit late here as well, so he's behind everyone else's program, but as you can see from the top left of screen, still 6 minutes to get around, and they're doing lap times sub 2 minutes, so no troubles at all fitting the 4 laps within the 15 minutes of time. And most drivers do leave pit lane immediately, but you don't have to. You can run a little deeper in the session, which is what Mitchell Peak's opted to do. But will that potentially bite a little bit now that the sun is out? Mitchell Peak navigates Lukey Heights. 2 names structured identically. Bramley in second at the moment as far as qualifying goes. Brett Marshall is top of the line, top of order, but he has no more laps left in qualifying. Brett Marshall, currently in provisional pole, is done, and it's Timon Bramley or Michael Coates or someone else who can take that pole away. Ronnie Coates is done. He hasn't taken pole. He'll start no better than 4th. So this final lap for Bramley, if it all comes together, he can start on pole position. At the moment, he sits in second. Camden Hibbett goes to the top as he completes his 4th lap. So how will this one pan out for Bramley? Suddenly, he knows what the target is, and he's got to find a little bit more time. He's got to find 3/10 on this lap compared to what his best was to beat Camden Hibbett. It's not super wide on the exit of the final corner for Timon Bramley, but as he crosses the line, he only jumps up to 2nd place. Ronnie Coates is done, Joel Singleton's done, Rui Coimbra is done, Joshua Soto is done. So of the drivers out there still running 9th, Eugenio Pellicci and Sean Hayes. I think Pellicci's just completed his last lap of this qualifying session, and Sean Hayes is on his final opportunity. He said he went to the 2003 Australian Grand Prix at Albert Park, wanted to go to Phillip Island but couldn't, and that tells us that Sean Hayes was married in 2003, if that's where he went for his honeymoon. No improvement on the final lap of qualifying for Sean Hayes. Ray Lombardi's on his final lap. Personal best in the 1st sector, about to cross that timing line before Lukey Heights at the end of the 2nd sector, which is not a personal best, missing about a 10th. And all the cars are looking quite oversteery at this point, Alex.
Yeah, I think maybe the track might be heating up a little bit. Also, I know the tires will be after 4 laps of pushing. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see once we get here into the race how the tire wear works, how the pit strategy all plays out.
Look at the track map, and the pit straight's actually the only straight part of the racing track, but we know that the sweep before turn 4 is flat out. We know Lukey Heights is flat out, so you spend a lot of time at speed but with some steering angle in the car, and they never quite rest or cool down. Crossing the line for Ray Lombardi, he fell a 10th short of improving, and I don't think he's entirely happy with it. He's going on a Phillip Island excursion. They've actually put a tyre wall across there that stops you from doing that now. So maybe we'll get an update to that at some point. Still 2 minutes left in the qualifying session, but everyone is done. The grid is locked in with Camden Hibbett on pole from Timon Bramley. Brett Marshall and Michael Coates are row number 2. Ronnie Coates and Joel Singleton are 5th and 6th there. And as you can see, Joel Singleton, open class pole position, denoted by the blue stripe. Rui Coimbra, Joshua Soto, Sean Hayes, and Eugenio Pellicci is the top 10. Ian Giebler is the next open class driver in 11th. And then there's Mitchell Peake, Ray Lombardi, Lee Martin, 3rd for open class, Brian Chabelski, Odyssey Adams, Geordie Fike, and then a slew of open class drivers back here. They're going to enjoy a great battle for 45 minutes on Phillip Island. It's Charles Vaccaro, Greg Mack, Andy Cossack, Zeus Dalston, Josh Olsen, and Paulo Coimbra. 23 drivers. They've had Road America a week ago, which was very, very slipstream intensive. I think people underestimate that characteristic here of Phillip Island.
I think it's a good point, David. It's a high-speed track and a low-power car, so the slipstream is always one's friend. I guess unless you're the leader.
We saw Road America looked like a little bit of a fuel-saving battle early on before the pit stops. So here could be similar. So look again at the top 10. You'll notice the coloured car numbers. So bronze and silver and gold are some of the donators, while we have colours for the pro and open class championship leaders as well. And the financial supporters of the league make the broadcast possible. And when it comes to circuit voting, well, it's like anything. More money can get you more votes. Class points leaders, yeah, pro leader and open class leader, red and blue. So thank you to all the supporters of the league. And the championship battle is super close for pro this year. Camden Hibbett picking up a win a week ago, but Ronnie Coates is always Mr. Consistency. The clock runs out on qualifying, which will have them line up on the grid for the formation lap around Phillip Island, and it's the Porsche 911 safety car today. Porsche Club of Australia do like to come here, so I guess that all checks out. 2x2 for the formation lap.
Yeah, it's my favorite of the safety cars.
I picked the sedan for Champ Car iRacing Series because of all the available safety cars. It's the one that's most like Champ Car. Because we're probably not going to have a 911. The truck is great for dirt, and then there's the Ford Mustang, which has happened before, but the sedan just looking like, you know, a mid-level rental car with a flashing light strapped on the roof is very, very believable for that championship.
The Thirst Mutilator there. It's a interesting sponsor on the 213.
Yeah, it's also got electrolytes, which, as you know, are what plants crave.
A lot of nice liveries here in the field. Heartland Autosport there.
They must have scanned this relatively around the time that World Superbike visited, because I just noticed there's a gantry behind the pole sitter that says Superbike Paddock. Here we go on the formation lap, and then the 45 minutes only begins when the green flag waves at the end of this formation lap. Air and track still cold, even though the sun peeks in and out from behind those relatively dark clouds, and it is still quite a blustery wind, but it's from the northwest, which would typically make it slightly warmer. Here, it's when it blows from the south that the wind is entirely unimpeded on its path from Antarctica. And apparently you really, really feel that here. But there you see, in whatever your unit of measure you like, the air temperature, the track temperature, and the wind speed, that would
windy.
make it a tailwind down the pit straight.
Yeah, bit gusty today, it looks like. Nice temperature, though. I really enjoy this pleasant temps here. Oh,
Hold on to
saw a
your
nice
hat.
boat there out in the water.
Yes, they have scanned.
Dale Juniors?
No, John Henry's.
Oh.
But Dale's on it. If you go out there and you look, they're on the back deck.
The stern.
Sure. The stern is the rear of the vessel, but the deck is not necessarily the stern.
Potato, tomato.
Pace car is about to pull in. There'll be a little bit of a journey then until they get around the final corner and the green flag waves on the start-finish straight. Pace car, though, amply demonstrating the long and fast and narrow pit entry here at Phillip Island that every driver is going to have to navigate at least once in this 45-minute race, with the compulsory pit stop coming up. Camden Hibbett and Timon Bramley are on the front row. Hibbett will have the inside to turn number 1, but then the outside to the long left-hander Southern Loop. We'll see how it all plays out when the green flag waves now and sends us Spec-5 World Tour racing at Phillip Island. The drivers from the pole sitters lane lining up, trying to bump him along into somewhat of a lead. Same happening behind the driver, adrift all by himself. Rui Coimbra in the middle lane has to tuck back in a line as they work their way through turn number 1 on cold tyres, building up speed on lap number 1 to the southern loop. Camden Hibbett has converted that pole position into the race lead. Brett Marshall from his lane on the right-hand side has also gone through ahead of Timon Bramley. Second place qualifier now back into third place in the racing, 3 wide behind, with Sean Hayes making contact with Eugenio Polici, who ends up through the outfield, 2 drivers off the track.
Let's take a look at this, David. Oh, that wasn't a great view. I'm not sure that the yellow car did anything wrong. Maybe someone got into the back of the white car. It's kind of hard to tell.
So Sean Hayes is all the way on the outside there, with Eugenio Polici to his left, and to his extreme left, Joshua Soto as well. And it ends up as a little bit of a pit maneuver, unintentionally. It sends Eugenio Polici way off the track. Sean Hayes slightly off the track. Sean Hayes keeps racing, but is now back down the order in 22nd. Whereas up front, they've navigated their way through the MG hairpin, now through the final corner. Camden Hibbett leading them, but the speed starts to pick up, so too the slipstream on the pit straight here. Brett Marshall still holding down second, ahead of Timon Bramley and Michael Coates. Rui Coimbra picked the middle lane on the race start and picked up a spot because of it. He's ahead of Ronnie Coates and Joshua Soto. But here, Brett Marshall is wondering, well, what is Timon Bramley going to do? A couple car lengths back from the leader, third place, gives a little bump and then a lift behind second place, and our top six runners compress somewhat through the fast, super committed turn one and into the southern loop corner that can really catch you out as it goes from being slightly uphill to cresting in the middle of the corner. And then the car always wants to wash out wide into that very generous runoff, and it's Joshua Soto who puts two tyres out there this time.
They're really mixing it up here. Nose to tail, but 7 deep here. This is great.
Top 10 pretty well unseparated as they work their way through the Miller hairpin, and from your open class drivers, Joel Singleton still leading, but Ian Giebler is the driver on the tail of this pack. Next open class driver in 10th outright. He's got a view forward not only of a whole heap of pro drivers, but also the open class driver. He's going to be trying to fight for victory here, not too far back. Focusing on Lee Martin there as well, third in the open class as they run at the moment. Lukey Heights down to the braking zone for one of the slowest corners on the racetrack. Camden Hibbett riding plenty of the curb there, getting the car, you might see, sideways. He's led all the way so far, and some of the drivers in behind him in the slipstream definitely showing signs of trying to save fuel early before they have to make that pit stop. Like Brett Marshall, who gets right to the bumper of the race leader, gives a little bit of bump and then cracks the throttle to maybe 80% or so and just follows along all the way through turn one and then towards the southern loop. Similar things happening all the way through this leading line of drivers early on in this 45-minute race. But Vaccaro's off at turn two. Charles Vaccaro has either had an uncomfortable moment or received a little bit of contact through southern loop. He just gets too much of the grass on the inside of the curb, gets the car unsettled, and he rides across the berm there for an uncomfortable little ride that sends him to the back of the pack.
Yeah, got quite lucky there to miss the end of the tire barrier. Looks like
Now,
the top three are starting to get some separation here, David.
Yeah, a couple car lengths, but not a great deal of time. Only 4/10 between Timon Bramley and Michael Coates, third and fourth. It's like 11 cars up front at the moment as Ray Lombardi's caught up behind Ian Giebler in the back of this shot. Through the hairpin, everyone trying to get all the way to that inside, hook a little bit of the camber in that corner, knowing that the exit is oh so critical.
Yeah, Michael Coates trying to keep the pressure on Timon Bramley.
Significant speed at the end of this straight, needs just a little tap of the brakes to navigate turn one. See a couple cars, brake lights come on, others look like they just roll out of the throttle and take off the necessary speed to flow through turn one before turn two is a real and proper braking zone. This hairpin looks like Marshall's ended up a little out of sorts here now alongside Timon Bramley, who have the inside for the sweeper but the outside for the braking zone at the hairpin, and Michael Coates is deciding, who do I want to follow here? He opts to roll out of the throttle. Rui Coimbra gets alongside him, so we're too wide, too deep through the Miller hairpin. Timon Bramley goes round the outside to grab the spot. Rui Coimbra still trying to go around the outside of Michael Coates to grab that spot, gets the inside here at Siberia and goes up a position. So a couple of positions changing hands up front here as Brett Marshall then runs it off wide on the exit there again. There's Ronnie Coates trying to now come up some spots if he can as well. Alongside Brett Marshall, Rui Coimbra gets to the inside of Lukey Heights here. He gets all out of shape trying to go quicker over the top of the hill, but then gets to cover off the inside into the MG hairpin, a couple corners, and Rui Coimbra picks up a couple spots.
All this battling has let the top two start to sneak away, though.
By a little bit. Camden Hibbett still leads with Timon Bramley. It's all the positions behind them that are changed hands, with now Rui Coimbra needing to make sure first and second don't get away from him. His Coates maybe having a look to turn one, backing out of it, tucking in behind Brett Marshall as they flow through the super fast turn one. How's that gap between second and third for you now? Is it closed up enough?
Yeah, starting to get right up in there to where he might be able to make a move here.
Definitely shown the desire to make a couple of moves early on, has Rui Coimbra. In fact, right as the green flag waved, he was looking to make a couple, and he did make some through turns 1 and 2 on the very first lap. Then waited a little bit. Now he's picked off Michael Coates and Brett Marshall to get up to third for the moment. Well, Camden Hibbett has led every lap, every moment, every corner of this race so far. Plainly obvious that many of the drivers behind him are taking this opportunity before the pit stop in the middle of the race. Try to save as much fuel as they can, try to cut down as much pit lane time as they can.
Well, all the seconds matter equally, right? So, yeah, the savvy driver will take that into account and make sure they don't give up any time anywhere. .7 seconds from first to 11th place at the moment, and you definitely could gain or lose 3.7 seconds on pit lane in a pit stop. So yeah, it all counts when the racing is close like that. Second place bumping first, third place arriving and rolling out of the throttle. Rui Coimbra saving fuel now as Michael Coates goes down the inside of Brett Marshall and up into fourth place. First, second and third not looking to change any positions, but behind fourth and fifth did shuffle as Michael Coates decided he'd get up one more spot closer to the leaders. He's right on the 78's bumper there on corner exit. I think he's going to have a look down here into this Miller hairpin.
Ooh,
No.
Not quite. But the checkup of the pack forces Joel Singleton to show a little bit of nose, even if he didn't want to make a pass. Actually had to get out of line to not run into the back of the driver in front. So he's still doing well, but he gets a little bit of a look from Joshua Soto, who then backs out of it. Joshua Soto is now alongside with Ronnie Coates. Timon Bramley drops back out of third, so suddenly a couple more positions changing hands here. A place that we haven't seen that many more passes happen. Camden Hibbett leads. Coimbra up now into second.
They come around here to this very sharp right-hander here at the bottom of the hill. And then back on the loud pedal and headed back towards the paddock building.
Field comes around to the pit straight, but Joshua Soto, Ronnie Coates battling each other over Lukey Heights have dropped a little bit of time when they came to that hairpin. And now there is more than 1 second between Soto in 7th and the leading group in 6th. I think Ronnie Coates will recognise that and try to pass. I thought he was going to try to bump Joshua Soto to close that gap, but instead Ronnie Coates tries to cement that pass. You see Ian Giebler around the outside of Ray Lombardi in this group here as well. So Ronnie Coates must think he's got enough speed that he's going to catch the next group of cars. Pretty clearly 6 cars as a train for the front, and then that just little staccato pause before you get to Ronnie Coates leading his little train.
It's a great shot here off the bumper.
Whoa.
Whoa, wow.
It sure is. Of Mitchell Peak, though, as he goes off the circuit, out wide in the braking zone, and goes for a very, very scenic run. And he thinks he got hit from behind by Ian Giebler, and he sure did. That checkup, once again, in that braking zone, it forced Joel Singleton to have to do something evasive earlier on. This time, it sees Ian Giebler run into the back of Mitchell Peak.
Yeah, it's so easy to do there. Oh, here we go, having a little bit of look up the inside, the 110. Kind of compromises exit, though, and allowed the 31 to be all over his bumper here.
Again, another case where I'm not sure Joel Singleton was trying to make the pass, other than he realized he was getting into the braking zone a little bit hotter than the car in front, and he didn't want to run up the back of them. It happened to him before. Now, Camden Hibbett has led every minute, every moment of this race to this point, and now he pulls out a line, lets some others go. Rui Coimbra goes to the lead of the race. Timon Bramley pushes him through, and Camden Hibbett drops back into third. Camden almost even looked like he wanted to let Michael Coates go, and Coates wasn't having it. Coates was just going to follow him. So now Rui Coimbra leads the race. Off Southern Loop, downhill to sweeping turn 3, which then sets you up into the braking zone that caused some drama earlier on at turn 4 here. Singleton's now fully alongside Ronnie Coates as they go in, and oh, Singleton has a wiggly moment. Poor traction off the corner. So Ronnie Coates was able to catch the leading group, bringing Joshua Soto with him, and from the contacts, Ian Giebler and Mitchell Peak, those are the drivers that have now been left behind. Ian Giebler, Ray Lombardi, Lee Martin, Geordie Fike, Brian Chabelski, and Odyssey Adams. Ian Giebler pedaling as furiously as he can, though, to try to catch the leading 8. And now Singleton's alongside Brett Marshall through the hairpin. Still no, I was going to say no pit calls. It looks like Andy Kosick might have made a deliberate pit strategy decision. He's the only car that's pitted and resumed the race because Eugenio Pellicci looks like he's retired his car. Rui Coimbra leads another lap, pushed along by Timon Bramley. Camden Hibbett sitting one car length back off the bumper of Bramley, just cracking the throttle to maintain that distance in the slipstream down the pit straight. Michael Coates doing likewise. That's Joel Singleton off the track. And, oh, Ronnie Coates gets a millimetre from going off the paved stuff into the grass and maybe going for a long ride out into that gravel.
Yeah, it's very easy to do right through there.
It used to be if you put half a tyre off the pavement, you were going for a very, very long ride when the grass was far, far slipperier than it is now. I think it's a little easier to shed your speed and rejoin the track now than iRacing builds gone by. They bred that grass to be just a little grippier. Than the old Deepwater Horizon spec grip grass.
So we would expect most of the leaders here to go long on their fuel. Yeah.
I mean, typically, when you're the leader, it makes sense to stay out long. And when you're in a pack following the leader, it makes sense to stay with the pack. So, yeah, I would say almost everyone from the leading group you expect to go long. It's some of the drivers that are out of place or deeper through the field that might gain something from pitting earlier. It's Rui Coimbra again being pushed by Timon Bramley down the pit straight, while third and fourth stay a car length back, and Singleton battles with Brett Marshall into turn 1, and Singleton prevails.
Is that Soto having a look there on the inside?
I think it was more just Brett Marshall being a bit wide. And again, a little wide on the exit for the black and purple Heartland Autosport car.
Keep our eye on Soto here as we approach this hairpin.
Now the massive checkup of drivers lifting off very early into the braking zone of that hairpin, and some of the drivers deeper in the chain, because it always, you know, that delayed reaction builds from one car to the next, to the next, to the next, till the last driver can really get surprised by a concertina effect more than you would expect a driver lifting off early, forcing the driver behind them to brake early, forcing the driver behind them to brake even earlier than that.
Choo-choo.
So, Rui Coimbra still leading us. Greg Mack on pit lane for some reason. Still Bramley in second, and this whole field bypass pit entry once again. Got to make sure you follow the right path on pit entry as well, because one of them leads into the paddock building. That looks like Mitchell Peaks rejoining the race and taking the motorcycle pit exit as well to stay well out of the way of this high-speed, angry MX-5 pack heading down towards and through turn number 1. Don't want to get caught up in that. There's clips of lap down cars rejoining the Daytona 500 causing the big one. It'd be a little like that, I think.
Yeah, with as close together as they are, you know, it would just take one small mistake there at the front to collect quite a few cars.
Little angle there of a lot of brake lights coming on early in the pack for the braking zone at the hairpin once again, as drivers want to stay in line at this early point in the race for the fuel savings. They also have to signal their intentions quite early. So we've had Camden Hibbert lead a good chunk of laps. Now Rui Coimbra feels like he's led for 3 or 4.
Yeah, he's been very strong up front.
And Mitchell Peak back on the lane again for whatever that's happened. So Andy Cossack's the only driver who looks like they've pitted, taken fuel and resumed at this point as he runs in 20th. Again, HJBC.live has also got more information for you if you want to follow along with precisely how your teammate or your friends are doing and what some of the pit stop strategies are looking like. Rui Coimbra down the middle of the road. This time Timon Bramley not pushing him but pulling out and getting his nose in front to the lead of the race for the first time. And Camden Hibbert gets passed by Michael Coates. So a lot starting to happen up front here as well. And often, if everyone sits in line, and then they start to make a couple of moves, it points to the pit window not being far away.
Yeah, when they get impatient, it's usually a good sign that it's go time.
And they start thinking suddenly a bit of track position would be nice. And Joshua Soto's battling Joel Singleton for a bit of track position there, side by side through the sweeper. And here goes Michael Coates for 2 positions. Michael Coates to the lead of the race, and then out wide makes a tiny bit of contact with Timon Bramley. There's a checkup with Rui Coimbra there as well. They're now 3 wide in this leading pack. And another checkup heading into Siberia as well from Timon Bramley. Okay, this is suddenly not looking like a train. It is looking a lot more like I-95 traffic.
Yeah, for sure. Side by side, probably pointing and yelling at each other.
Yeah, some choice words could be happening out there as well. The field goes single file, and it is Michael Coates leading them down the hill from Timon Bramley, Camden Hibbert. Joel Singleton's worked his way up a couple of positions there into that 4th. Joshua Soto up into 5th as well. It's Rui Coimbra who's lost a lot of positions through all of that shuffling as he's gone from the lead of the race back to 6th, but still none of them from this group taking pit entry. It really has slowed up the leaders. There's someone on pit entry, but it's our top 14 in a line together here, led by Michael Coates. Geordie Fike hits pit lane as he's decided maybe he has seen enough, and we're a minute away from the halfway point of this 45-minute race. So a couple of drivers that have ended up back with the leading group, as the leaders seemed like they all wanted to go 2 wide, 3 wide for a bit there. Lee Martin's back in. Odyssey Adams, Brian Jabelski have caught the leading group, so they can see all the way to the lead of the race as it heads in towards turn 4, Miller hairpin. Going off the road a tiny bit, Ray Lombardi. So he gets passed by Ian Giebler, or does he? He doesn't, as the circuit changes direction then from the right-hander hairpin into the left-hander of Siberia, now side by side through the Haysheds sequence of sweepers here. Tiny bit of damage evident on Ian Giebler's car, and I think to be a tiny bit of evident damage that matches it on Mitchell Peake's rear bumper.
Yeah, well, now that we're just past the halfway point, this would be a good time to go ahead in and let the crew tape that up while they're putting some fuel in the car.
Super late call here onto the pit entry from Timon Bramley. And classic NASCAR style, it meant no one else was able to react to it. So he's the only driver that pits from the leading group. Michael Coates, Camden Hibbett, Joel Singleton, they all carry on. He might be thinking it's about pit stop time. I saved a lot early on following Camden Hibbett, then following Rui Coimbra. I can undercut them here with a super short stop. And right side tyres, apparently, Timon Bramley's going for.
Wow, so...
What do you reckon? A lot of long loaded left-hand corners here, but also track and air pretty cool.
Yeah, but you know, the turn 2 and 3 and then the final turn, you know, a lot of those are really high speed. You're really loaded up for a long time. So yeah, probably a good call. It looks like it didn't cost him any extra time.
21 seconds fuel for him, 20 seconds for Geordie Fike. And it's only 15 for Andy Cossack, so I think he might have to pit again unless he's taken the floor pan out so he can put his feet on the racetrack and push himself along. Camden Hibbett back to the race lead here, Michael Coates. Joshua Soto up into third with Bramley having pitted. So we'll see if everyone has to pit now or if any of them are just going to merely react to Timon Bramley's actions. Camden Hibbett is going to pit. He's let the drivers around him know that that's what he's going to do. And it is a late arc into pit lane, and many drivers follow him, but a few stay out. So almost a 50-50 split from the leading group here as they go to pit entry. Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates, Joshua Soto, Joel Singleton, Brett Marshall, and Ian Giebler. Lee Martin and Brian Zabelski all pitting. Rui Coimbra stays out, and he goes to lead another lap of Spec-5 World Tour at Phillip Island, ahead of Ronnie Coates, Ray Lombardi, and Odyssey Adams Jr., the 4 drivers staying out. Now, the action on pit lane. I am not seeing a lot of other right-hand side tyres happen. I'm seeing left sides for Ian Giebler. Okay, now Sean Hayes. Is that a late call for right side tyres? None for Joshua Soto as he pulls out of the lane now.
Yeah, quick stop there.
For Michael Coates as he pulls out of the lane. Where is Timon Bramley relative to these guys?
There he
He's
comes.
at speed, swooping around a couple of them. He'll still be behind Michael Coates and behind Joshua Soto. Geordie Fike arrives at speed in towards turn 1 on a couple of the cars exiting pit lane as well. So he just sneaks ahead of Ian Giebler. Joshua Soto, pretty snappy stop. 1.5 seconds ahead of Camden Hibbett, who's still ahead of Michael Coates, who's ahead of Timon Bramley, who might be still trying to bring those right side tyres in. wind has died down from ripping your hat off speed to merely turning your umbrella inside out speed. Here's Ronnie Coates and Rui Coimbra battling for the lead of the race, as neither of them have stopped yet. That was the final lap. You'd have to get the photo finish camera out. Down towards turn 1, Ronnie Coates goes to the lead of the race for what feels like the first time in my memory. These drivers have gone quite a few laps longer than those others that have all clearly pitted to react to Timon Bramley's quite rapid and early stop. So the driver's running long here. Ronnie Coates, a 1:45.2 on that lap just completed. Against Timon Bramley has not yet completed a flying lap, but we're about to see what it is as he crosses the line. Bramley has a 1:45.7. So leading group still doing about the pace of Bramley, who stopped. They are not losing time from staying out at the moment. It's their pace compared to Joshua Soto that's also going to count, though, because he's still highest running driver yet to stop and being caught by Camden Hibbett. So the slipstream gap closed there to Joshua Soto. That group starting to form up again here with Soto, Hibbett, Coates and Bramley in your vision. Just behind them, Brett Marshall having a little bit of a look on Geordie Fike. Doesn't pull it off the next group of cars. And Joel Singleton and Ian Giebler battling for the open class lead have been reunited after this group of pit stops as well. Ronnie Coates heads to pit lane. Rui Coimbra stays out. Ray Lombardi stays out, but Odyssey Adams pits. So yet another split in strategy up front. Rui Coimbra almost going for most laps led.
Yeah, for sure. He's getting plenty of camera time for that sponsor.
Ronnie Coates, fuel going in, but no sign of the car being jacked up, which is necessity for tyres changing. Same is true of Odyssey Adams. I feel the longer you go into the race before you stop, the less likely you are to take tyres.
Yeah, I would agree, absolutely.
Just on account of you don't have a whole lot of time to make benefit out of them. So Ronnie Coates exits pit lane, but he's not completely up to speed. And before he gets to turn 1, he's passed by Joshua Soto, Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates, and Timon Bramley. So Ronnie Coates will hope that he can now go along with what is looking to be the lead battle between Soto, Hibbett, and Coates. And Soto, hasn't he done well with that very sharp pit stop? Must have been running 5th or 6th or so before the pit stops. And he's just plain undercut everyone to get to the race lead.
Yeah, he did a very good job managing that fuel mileage in the first part of the race to set himself up for this.
On board with Ronnie Coates, 7th officially, probably 5th once everyone pits. Still waiting on Rui Coimbra and Ray Lombardi up front. Only 2 cars that haven't pitted. Now in the final third of the race, 15 minutes to go. This 45-minute race in Spec-5 World Tour, and right on cue, they're both on the lane, Rui Coimbra and Ray Lombardi. Slow and narrow pit lane here on Phillip Island. Looks very narrow with cars in it. It looks very, very wide with motorbikes. And there's Coimbra hitting his marks. Hoping for a pit stop, 20 seconds or maybe a little bit shorter.
Yeah, no tires.
And working through the final corner, the group of cars that are likely to pass him for the lead of the race. Camden Hibbett's got ahead of Joshua Soto. Michael Coates alongside Joshua Soto gets a bit of a nasty bump from Timon Bramley. And so it's going to be 3 wide, almost 4 wide, heading down towards turn number 1. Michael Coates going for the lead of the race. And do you know what? He might almost get it from Camden Hibbett. Joshua Soto in 3rd, just chopping across the nose. Michael Coates goes into the race lead. Contact behind, sees Joshua Soto spin out. He gets hit by Ray Lombardi. Drama at turn 2.
Let's see what happened here. Ooh. Almost looked like Soto just kind of pushed up off the bottom line and maybe got into the car on the outside.
Interesting. Looks like Soto continues with a little bit of damage after that contact there at turn 2. Coates leads from Hibbert, from Bramley, and a bit of a gap to Rui Coimbra, who really had to slow up to work his way through that. No sign of too much damage on Ray Lombardi or Geordie Fike. Joel Singleton and Ian Giebler now in this second group of cars. A little bit of space between Singleton leading open class to Ian Giebler there. 3 drivers battling for the pro class lead come out of the hairpin. 2 seconds between Timon Bramley here in 3rd place and Rui Coimbra in 4th. Looking like it could be a little bit of a late race breakaway happening.
For sure, they're up on that wheel as they go side by side. You're down the main straight and heading towards turn 1.
Coates staying tight on the exit of the final corner, offering up the inside line to Camden Hibbert as if he wanted him to take it, but then they still battle side by side through turn 1 here. Coates going around the outside of 1 to have the inside for 2, braking very early. Camden Hibbert goes around the outside to the race lead. Timon Bramley not able to follow him. There's not a lot of grip off the racing line. The camber kind of works against you.
Yeah, it's very tough there to keep the car from wanting to push out to the edge.
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I opted to just say the lyrics rather than rap them for everyone's benefit.
Thank you.
Rui Coimbra has caught them a bit with all of that. Of course, side by side through turns 1 and 2, not the fastest way when you're the race leader. So Rui Coimbra's closed the gap from 2 seconds to about 1.5. He's a little bit closer to getting within 1 second of that next car ahead. He doesn't need to get within 1 second of Camden Hibbert. He just needs to get within 1 second of Timon Bramley in 3rd to get on the slipstream and sort of throw the grappling hook out and start to reel them in. Joel Singleton tried to take a spot away from Brett Marshall, put a pro-class car between himself and his competition of Ian Giebler, but he couldn't do it. It didn't work out. So now it looks like Ian Giebler as close to his class leader as he has been for quite some time.
Yeah, good run by the open cars here up in the top 10.
Down the pit straight towards 1. Teammates of Ray Lombardi and Geordie Fike. I thought I saw a little bit of bump drafting happening there because they'd also like to catch Rui Coimbra, who would like to catch the race leaders. 10 minutes left to go, and you want to be within that slipstream of the leader. Conversely, the top 3, I think, know that they don't want that to happen.
Wow, definitely not working together to get away here.
No, Michael Coates forcing Camden Hibbert to take a narrow line, but there's contacts for Brett Marshall and one of the Team Esport Racer cars. So 2 cars around at the hairpin there have kept going. Ooh, Singleton looking for the inside on Brett Marshall, and that's what kicks it off. So does separately Geordie Fike spin out?
I'm not sure.
So it looks like Ray Lombardi carried on, but it was Geordie Fike that also spun out at that same corner. Very interesting. 5 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line as the leader on screen here, Camden Hibbert, leads the group through to start. 5 laps to go. Always so interesting. They come out of that final corner, and then what does the leader do? Do they run middle of the road? Do they run the normal racing line? Do they deliberately offer up the inside line and, drop to the back of the pack? In this case, we're going to go side by side for the race lead through turn number 1. Once again, Michael Coates round the inside with Camden Hibbett around the outside now of turn 2. Timon Bramley still sitting in 3rd place for the moment. And Rui Coimbra problems in the last minute. It's now Ray Lombardi in 4th place, trying to catch the battling leaders.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Ray is starting to make a breakaway from that group. If these guys keep battling, he might be able to bridge up there. What's the heights here? What's the Yuki? Lukey. Okay.
Yuki heights is about 4 foot 8 inches, I think, if you measure how tall Formula One drivers are. I think. So yeah, I just tried to look at what happened to Rui Coimbra, and I can't find it exactly, but it does look like he maybe had some technical issues and then went off the track somewhere. So from leading a handful of laps, from being in 4th, trying to catch the leading group, Rui Coimbra is pretty well out of this race. Ray Lombardi now runs 4th with a couple of cars bearing down on him. And it's only 7 minutes left to go. Leading group of cars going down the straight, and is that Singleton is parked on the exit of the final corner as well, giving the open class lead to Ian Giebler, who now runs 5th outright and would grab a big bag of points from finishing there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there a moment ago. Maybe some kind of hardware issue. Oh boy, the 22 really pushed wide there. Odyssey Adams.
Yeah, Odyssey Adams wide in turn 2, Southern Loop. That's a couple of cars through. So Ronnie Coates up in 6th, Geordie Fike through into 7th. This is our leaders. Michael Coates still leading. Camden Hibbett and Timon Bramley battling over 2nd and 3rd by the looks of things, but they still run in the same order with Bramley back in 3rd. It's Ray Lombardi's little breakaway from Ian Giebler and co. Joshua Soto now 9th in that group. So I think there's definitely still time for Joshua Soto to get to 5th or maybe even 4th.
Oh yeah, what will it be this time around? 3 laps?
Yep, looks like it.
Yes,
Over the heights and into MG. Ronnie Coates goes around the outside of the MG hairpin and up into 5th place. Giebler now back into 6th. Bit of too wide happening behind here. Odyssey Adams again wide. Again getting passed by another car. Joshua Soto picks off one. He's got time to pick off a couple more if and he so pleases. Top 3 crossing the line, covered by 4/10 in the battle for the win. Michael Coates from Camden Hibbett from Timon Bramley. Hibbett having a look to the inside of turn 1. Michael Coates, we know, not afraid of trying to go round the outside here. I think, he has gotten in a little too hot there. Has to have a dab of the brakes in a place you normally wouldn't. Bramley goes through into 2nd. Next group. Geordie Fike's now gotten ahead of Ian Giebler. Joshua Soto can line up his next victim in the recovery drive.
Oh, Ian Giebler here looks like he's lining up to maybe get this position back.
And outbraking down the inside goes Joshua Soto, also running wide. Geordie Fike. Soto will now try to get around the outside of him for another spot into Siberia. I don't see many outside passes happen here and work. And yeah, again, you can't quite do it unless it's raining, in which case I think the outside line could work. But conditions like this, the inside's just grippier, the shorter line, the preferred line, the quickest way around the corner. Over the crest and then dropping down into super tough braking zone. Two laps to go now. More time between the leading 3 and Ray Lombardi leading this group in fourth. Looks like a three-way fight. Camden Hibbett versus Timon Bramley versus Michael Coates for the win at Phillip Island. Michael Coates all the way out of the slipstream now, tucking in behind. You almost can't see Timon Bramley in second there as he's hidden behind Camden Hibbett, race leader.
Well, great battle going on here. The 213 has a perfect seat to watch it unfold.
So picking up speed once again through the sweeper towards a big braking zone. Hibbett leaving the opportunity open if Timon Bramley wanted to go for the inside, but he doesn't just yet. We watch from Michael Coates in third.
Yeah, the setup appears to be nice and free. A little bit of counter steer there. One corner entry. Looks very fun.
I was on the AIM website the other day. You can pick yourself up one of those MXL2 displays and only have to part with multiple thousands of dollars. Oh, offline, a bit wide for Timon Bramley there. Gets it back on the racing line as he's trying to set up Camden Hibbett and think about where and how he can pass him once they get to this final lap just moments away.
Yeah, it's definitely not over yet, David. This is going to be one of our closer finishes, I think.
Not over till you cross that checkered flag. If you're very, very close out the final corner here, you can pass before the checkered flag as well if you time your run just right. You can see here as we start the final lap, if that was the checker, I don't know who would have won it, but we start the final lap side by side for the win between Timon Bramley and Camden Hibbett. Through turn number one, around the outside, Bramley gives up nothing, trying to squeeze Hibbett to a slightly narrow line so that he can then into turn two, take the race lead, and Timon Bramley does. Hibbett back into second place with Michael Coates watching on. This group 5 seconds ahead of the battle for fourth that Ronnie Coates still leads. Moving all over the line, Michael Coates now back into position. Bramley across to defend the inside line from Camden Hibbett in towards the Miller hairpin. Does he get a little deep in there? You know what? I think he does, but it's a short run to Siberia. And if you've got the inside, as proved a lap ago, that's where the speed is at. Bramley, well, gets a little up on the curb though, unsettles the car. Your top three inseparable at this moment on the final lap, and Hibbett does get a better exit off of that complex to get his nose in front to the lead of the race. Heading towards Lukey Heights, he's clear of Timon Bramley to be able to come across and take whatever line he wants through this segment. Hibbett leads, and it's just going to be a matter of covering off this braking zone and making sure he gets his run perfect out the final corner. Hibbett leads for the moment with 2 corners left to go. Bramley within a car length to just set up that slipstream. Hibbett following the normal racing line at the moment, doing nothing to try to upset Timon Bramley out the final corner. It's flat out full throttle from here in the gusting breeze towards the checkered flag. Timon Bramley follows the slipstream. Camden Hibbett moves across. Bramley tries to carry the run to the checkered flag, but he's 1/100th of a second too late as Camden Hibbett takes the win from Bramley, from Coates. In the group behind, Ronnie Coates gets to fourth ahead of Ray Lombardi, Joshua Soto, and Geordie Fike. Super close, as it always is, on the final lap, and there was some drama behind, evidenced by Ian Giebler and Lee Martin, both missing headlights and front bumpers.
Here we go, Dave. We're going to get a look at what happened to Ian Giebler there on the last lap. Oh, no. Oh, wow.
So that's Odyssey Adams off track, spinning back across, collecting 2 cars. And that's obviously where it starts. And most everyone crossing the checkered flag here. And through all of that, Lee Martin's gone on to take the open class win. So looking at results, Camden Hibbett, 0.018 of a second ahead of Timon Bramley, who threw everything at it in that run from the final corner to the checkered flag. Michael Coates with third, Ronnie Coates with 4th, Ray Lombardi, Joshua Soto, Jordy Fike, Brian Chabelski, pro-class drivers in the top 8, and then to Lee Martin and Ian Giebler. Lee Martin taking the open class win, Ian Giebler with 2nd, then Brett Marshall, Sean Hayes, Odyssey Adams 13th, and then open class drivers Charles Vaccaro, Josh Olson, Zeus Dalston, Andy Kosick, Paulo Coimbra, Joel Singleton retired. We saw he pulled over, and that was his race. Rue Coimbra likewise as well, with some technical issues or a crash that we couldn't see because of technical issues. He ended up 6 laps back, and then Greg Mack and Mitchell Peak 15 laps back. Eugenio Polici, relatively early retirement in this one. So, Alex, a lot happening on that final lap, both in the battle for the lead, but also for the open class victory.
Yeah, that was it was wild. I guess that's why, we raced all the way to the checker, right? And you kept reminding me that it wasn't over till it was, because anything can happen even on the last lap.
I was thinking the other day about sports where you can conceivably, in the final second, blow an incredibly large lead. And most footballs, you can't. Racing is one of them. I think so is golf. You can have a 5-stroke lead going into the last hole and
Tin Cup
completely blow it all away. So there's only a couple of sports like that. Motor racing is one of them, where until you cross that checkered flag, it just ain't done yet. See if we can speak to some of the drivers involved in all of the action that we just saw. And for 2 weeks in a row, Camden Hibbett wins by a margin that I suspect cumulatively is still less than a 10th. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's definitely still less than a 10th. It's been, last 2 weeks have been crazy. I had a game plan going into Road America, like the final lap of Road America. I didn't really have one here because there was a couple different places and different ways you could have won tonight. If you got a good enough run out of the final sequence, you could have drafted past the leader before the line, and then you could have, if you're able to get it, as the leader, if you're able to get a good enough run, you would be able to hold on to it. There was so many different ways to come away with the win tonight, and that's what I think made it so fun, because I certainly didn't have a game plan going into the last lap. I was just going to playing it by ear and seeing what Tim would give me and go from there.
You've managed to wipe his breath off the back of your neck after that final lap?
Not quite. We're working on it. No, it was wild. I wear an Apple Watch. I started a workout. My max heart rate was 175 tonight. It was wild racing tonight. I had no idea what I was. It was an awkward place for me. Normally, I have an idea of what I want to do, and tonight I was kind of lost on what the best path to coming away atop the podium was, and definitely a little bit of luck went my way there to coming to the checkered, where he didn't get quite a good enough run. But yeah, great racing tonight.
Couple of different strategies out there. You led some laps early, and then Rui Coimbra decided he wanted to lead some laps. Michael Coates led 1 or 2, and then it seems like for a lot of the leaders, Timon kind of led the strategy call.
Yeah, I definitely was. I was kind of planning on going in with him. He made a super late dive, and it didn't leave me enough time to dive into the pits with him.
Do you suspect that was intentional?
I have a feeling. There was definitely some intent with that. And then I called out on voice chat to see that I was coming in to hopefully get some people behind me to come in with me, specifically Josh Soto. I went past Michael Coates on my in lap, knowing it was going to be my in lap, trying to get as good of a lap as I could. So definitely some strategy went into it tonight. I wanted to lead the laps just to get the bonus points because I was still saving fuel when I was leading. I wasn't saving when I dropped back. So I think third, I wasn't saving much more fuel than I was leading. So that's when I kind of made the decision to go for most laps led and try and get that one bonus point, and then final 3 laps we'll race for the win.
Race for the win you did, side by side into turn 1 to start that final lap, and then as it played out, an 18 thousandths of a second winning margin. Another photo finish for you that you find yourself on the right side of. Congrats.
Thank you. You guys do a great job with the broadcast. I need to thank Buyers Automotive, Rainier Construction, Team Spirit Custom Trailers, Aussie Sales, Westerville Automotive, and Auto Smarts Radio. My mom, my dad, Mazda Motorsports for giving me an opportunity to be a nominee for the shootout. Finalists come out. Finals get announced tomorrow, so looking forward to hopefully some good news there. It's been a wild past year or so from sim and real life, so looking forward to keeping the momentum going.
Awesome. See you next week.
Thanks. We'll see you guys.
Camden Hibbett wins once again, and our open class winner, Lee Martin. Bit of a surprise for you to come away with that open class win?
A bit of a surprise. I tried to give it away 3 times, apparently.
I think on that last lap, a couple of drivers ended up surprised. From your perspective, what happened?
I couldn't tell what started it. Looked like somebody was off track and either lost control or came back right on in front of Ian, which I felt terrible for Ian. And then I had about a tenth of a second to react. It wasn't enough, so I finished without a hood.
And how many spare bumpers do you think they bring to a weekend like this? Because you ended up needing one, and then Ian Giebler might have needed one. A few other damaged cars out there as well.
It's clearly not enough bumpers were brought in, but I will tell you, the plan tonight was to be conservative and let other people take each other out. And then I had a fuel calculation go perfectly, forgot to turn off crew chief, so I got an extra half a gallon. Thought I was out of it. Fortunately, there was enough fighting in front to take another chance at it. And then had that contact on the last lap. I thought all hope was lost.
Well, you still do win. A couple of other drivers led in class. Obviously, Giebler led a couple of laps. Joel Singleton's been very, very competitive in that open class this season and takes some beating.
He is fat. What happened to Joel? I didn't see what happened.
He just parked out of the final corner and towed.
I wonder if he blew an engine. I was scaring myself out of blowing an engine a couple of times, but I thought I was second until somebody yelled at me to jump up into the booth. So I'll take a freebie if that's what it comes to, I guess. Hell of a race, though.
Yeah, congratulations on that open class win, even if it was a surprise to you, but presumably a welcome one.
Welcome one indeed. Unfortunately, not enough to pull away from Ian. He is wicked fast and a great driver all around. So see if we can keep it close.
Couple of rounds left of this season. Best of luck.
Thank you much. Have a great night, guys.
Kidoki. Well, that almost wraps us up on HJBC from Phillip Island in the Spec-5 World Tour. Camden Hibbett coming away with the Pro Class win. Lee Martin unexpectedly coming away with that Open Class win. Both of them super close and being decided on the final lap, as good racing should be. Well, join us next week. We'll bring you live coverage once again, same place, same time here on HJBC. If you're not subscribed, please do. And we'll see you for HJBC for Spec-5 World Tour next week. And also Champ Car iRacing Series. 4.5 hours of Laguna Seca is coming up. Registrations are open and you'll find them on the Champ Car forum. I've been David Haynes with Alex Albert, Michael Derby. See you in a week's time here on HJBC for the next round of Spec-5 World Tour.
Good night and mahalo.